Hello to all my Sussex Handmade Soap Company friends. Thank you for joining me today. It's midday exactly, and it is so hot today. I think it's the hottest day of the year so far. We're up at about 31 degrees, so it is sweltering. And that made me think of things that I enjoy in the summer. And I was thinking of beach days, chilling by the pool, a couple of drinks, and lots of lovely fresh fruit. And the fresh fruit that springs to my mind when I think of summer is watermelon. And I must admit, I don't actually like watermelon, but my kids love it and I've grown it before as well in my allotment. So watermelon to me, although I don't eat it, does remind me of summer. And watermelon is one of those classic soap designs. I think anywhere you go, you will see a watermelon soap, whether that be on the high street, whether it to be a craft fair, or whether it be like a little luxury kind of boutique store. They generally do have watermelon soaps because it is a fun design. And I want to try and create a watermelon soap, but using only natural ingredients, because a lot of the watermelon soaps are created with artificial colours, artificial fragrances and whatnot. We're not going to be able to get anywhere close to a watermelon fragrance. I'm not going to pretend that we are. Watermelon essential oil just does not exist. If anyone tells you that it does, they are lying. It doesn't exist. A lot of berry fragrances do not exist in essential oils, so you won't get a strawberry or blackberry or anything like that. So I'm going to leave it unfragranced. If you guys have got any ideas of anything that would go well in a watermelon design soap, please leave us a comment, because we may well make this soap again, and if we do, it would be nice to scent it. The only caveat there is it has to be an essential oil. So yeah, get your thinking caps on for me. Give me some essential oils, safe for use in soap, that smell a little bit fruity and a little bit berry-like, and that also don't cost a fortune, because some of the essential oils are far too expensive to use in soap. We are going to be creating purely the watermelon design, so we're going to go for the green base layer, then we're going to go with a slightly lighter green middle layer, and then we're going to go with a nice pinky kind of coloured flesh decorated with some poppy seeds. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that that is going to create a really pretty, all-natural watermelon soap. So let's move swiftly on and start creating our summer watermelon soap. So today, as always, we start with the cooled lye water being poured carefully into our combined melted solid oils and liquid oils. I'm working at a temperature of about 105 degrees Fahrenheit today. And I'm going to bring this to a very light trace, just past emulsion, because I want the batter that I'm working with today to be fairly runny. So this is only going to take me a few seconds. Right, now that that's combined, I'm going to split off a third of this, and that's going to be what we begin working with today. And now I've weighed out 1/3, I need to further split this down into thirds again, into 3 separate jugs. And we're going to start working with 2 of the jugs. I'm going to colour these to be the skin of the watermelon. Watermelon has that lovely kind of mottled effect, different kind of greens blending into each other. So I have chosen, for the first shade, some nettle leaf powder. And I've used about a teaspoon of nettle leaf powder, which I've combined with some of our liquid oils. I've combined it with the liquid oils so that it combines better into the soap. It'll be incorporated a little bit better having been mixed like this. So I'm going to tip this into our first jug. And then in our second jug I'm going to use some spirulina powder. And again, there's about a teaspoon of spirulina powder in here, which has been mixed with liquid oils, which will hopefully give us a slightly different shade of green. so we can combine them together and make the watermelon skin out of them. Mixing each one well just to combine it and make sure those colours and powders are properly incorporated. And it really has been quite a challenge trying to find the right sort of colours to try and create this watermelon skin out of. Obviously the whole watermelon as a whole is probably going to be a lot more muted than if you were using mica powders or oxides, but we've got the advantage of knowing that it is going to be completely natural, which kind of makes up for what you might lose in the vibrance of the colours themselves. So these are the two colours close up. Now we're going to pull in our mould. And all I'm going to do to create the layer, which is going to form the skin of the watermelon, is just dip a little in like that. Then grab the other colour and go over the top of those lines. They are going to blend, but that's okay because the watermelon skin itself has got that mottled sort of effect. So we want them to blend, we want them to combine a little. We're just purely trying to create that sort of mottling effect that you do see on the skin of a watermelon. Now we need this to firm up a little before we add on our next layer, because we don't want our next layer to actually bleed into this layer. So we shall pop this carefully, because it's very liquid, to one side. Leave that to firm up, and we'll bring back in the last third of this batter. And we're going to use this to form the kind of middle bit between where you've got the skin and you've got the red sort of juicy flesh. There's always that kind of pale green, whitey colour in between watermelon flesh and watermelon skin. And to create that, we have got some French green clay. And again, it's about a teaspoon. It's been mixed with some of our liquid oils, and we're going to incorporate this into that white batter. I'm hoping this will create a paler colour than what we've already got. French green clay does tend to be a fairly pale colour when it's mixed in and combined. And this is the colour that we've created with the French green clay. As you can see, it's a little lighter than the colours that we've already created for the base of our watermelon, which is good. It's going to be a great division between the skin and the flesh of the watermelon. So because this batter was so thin when we poured it, it's actually taken a heck of a long time to set up. I'm talking probably 15-20 minutes, and that's just to get it to a stage where I'm fairly confident that the next layer isn't going to bleed through. While it's been setting up, I've been making sure to now and again stir both this batter and the other batter that we haven't started using yet, because I don't want them to thicken up too. And it seems to have worked because these are still quite nice and thin. And now I'm going to very carefully pour this batter over our spatula and onto our green layer. And I say I'm doing it so carefully because this lower level still isn't completely set up and I don't want this batter to break through. Just pouring down the centre and allowing it to just sort of flow out to the sides naturally. And it's looking good. It doesn't look like it's breaking through. It doesn't look like anything's going wrong. Just going to get the last bits out of this jug. And now I'm very carefully just going to coax it into the edges where it hasn't spread yet. Just covering up all of that lower layer of green. So anywhere where I can see the lower level of green poking through, I'm pulling batter gently over the top. So you can see while I've been working with the other layers just how much this layer has thickened up. Remember, it was as thin as the others when we started, and that's why I wanted such a light trace, because I knew I was going to be spending quite a lot of time doing the layers and I didn't want it to thicken up beyond use. But this is okay. This is a fairly decent consistency for me to work with. And we need to colour it, of course, that lovely watermelon red. And I can't promise you that we're going to get a watermelon red. It's quite hard for me to find reds in nature without using obviously the micas or the oxides. The closest I could find was this red clay. So we're not going to be the sort of pinky red of a watermelon. It's going to be more of a darker, more muted red. We'll see how it turns out. Possibly even going to be verging on the orange side. But we're going to tip that in there. And for this one I actually used about a tablespoon of the red clay, and again combined it with some of our liquid oils. I used a little more than I did with the other colourants because I wanted this to be really vibrant, and obviously there's more batter to colour in this one. So I'm going to work this in a little. And as you can see, it's now turning a kind of a brick red colour, I suppose I'd describe this. There are little bits of clay that you can see in there. I'm going to try and get them incorporated as much as possible, but if they don't, it doesn't really matter because it'll just add to the effect of the watermelon. And speaking of adding to the effect, we have also got some poppy seeds to add in, just to create the little pips and things that you see in watermelons. It's about a tablespoon of poppy seeds there. So I'm going to work these into the batter now. So there we have it, the top layer ready to be poured. It is getting quite thick now, but I am still going to have to wait just a little bit longer for that other layer to set up. While it's setting up, I'm going to slowly keep stirring this now and again, so hopefully it won't thicken up too much more. And we'll be back in a minute when that other layer is ready to go. Okay, this one's set up a lot quicker. Again, it's not 100% set yet, but I think we're going to be okay. I'm going to try the pouring now, and hopefully it's not going to break through. So I'm going to do it exactly the same way as before. Over the spatula, slowly and carefully. As low down to the layer as possible. And just allowing it to flow over the spatula and onto the level below. Right, I'm going to stop briefly and just push it into the edges because this batter is thick. I want to make sure all those edges are filled in. So just pushing it into the corners there. And now I feel a little bit more confident about being able to get the rest of this out. If it was going to break through, it would have done it by now. Possibly it already has. I won't know until I cut tomorrow. But I'm going to keep my fingers crossed on it. I'm pretty happy with the colours that have come out so far. This clay is very pinky coloured. The greens seem to work quite nicely. The poppy seeds give it that added burst of interest, because obviously watermelon seeds are black, so that's where we're going with for that. And now I'm just going to wait another few minutes and I'm going to come back, texture the top slightly, then we're going to be done. Right, I've just done a little test. We seem to be okay for texturing, so I'm going to use this spoon. And I'm just going to gently pull it up to the middle from the edges. It's still quite thin. I could have left it a little longer, but I don't feel that this soap needs a massively textured top. So I'm going to go with it like this. I always find texturing the tops one of the most satisfying, relaxing things to do while soaping. And it's amazing how with just such a simple technique you can actually create a design that when it's out and unmoulded and cut looks really impressive and really pretty. There we go. Right, lastly I'm going to whip my glove off. Please don't do this if you're making soap. The chances of this hand coming into contact with this soap now are minimal, but I still wouldn't recommend taking gloves off. But I want to place a few little poppy seeds along the top, and you try doing that with sticky, sweaty latex gloves on. It doesn't work very well. And I want these to be placed fairly nicely. So just along this ridge we've created on the top, we're going to sprinkle some poppy seeds over. You don't have to do this step, I just think it helps to add a little bit of texture and a little bit of interest. But we've already got those poppy seeds throughout the actual soap, which, as well as looking pretty, they're actually going to be great for exfoliating the skin as well. Right, I think that should probably do it. I always have a habit of tending to go a little bit overboard, she says, still refusing to stop sprinkling the seeds. Right, stop. There we go, we're done. One all natural watermelon soap. We'll be back in a day or two, we'll chop it up and I'll show you how it's come out. I'll see you then. So we're back 20 hours later and the soap has been unmoulded and I'm going to attempt to cut it. It's another really hot day and this actually seems to be helping the soaps to set up a little quicker than they usually do. So let's get this one marked out and cut. I'm going to turn it onto its side for cutting as usual because we don't want the poppy seeds to drag down through the soap. So let's get this one marked and cut. So we're all cut up now and we have managed to create this. And I'm really happy with how it's looking. If we look down at the first layer, the green layer, you can really see the difference in colour between the spirulina powder and the nettle powder. We really have got the watermelon skin effect there. Then we've got the French green clay for the next layer, which is paler as we'd hoped. And then moving up to the top, we've got the Moroccan red clay, which is creating a really pinky hue for the watermelon, and obviously the poppy seeds are helping too. So I think that's a really cool take on the traditional brightly coloured watermelon soaps that you see. Obviously it is a little bit paler, the colours are more muted, but I think as a natural alternative, we certainly haven't done a bad job there. So I've had a little tweak with the camera settings now because it was looking a little bit washed out there and it wasn't really picking up all the colours properly. But I've had a tweak with the settings and there is our watermelon soap. Hopefully you can see it a little better now. The colours now are looking pretty true on the screen to what they're actually looking like in real life. So I'm really happy with how it's worked out. I'm really happy with the effect that we've got. And I think if you are trying to create a watermelon soap that looks the part but contains everything completely natural, then I think this one is a pretty good attempt. Obviously we haven't got the watermelon fragrance, but that can't be helped. And like I say, this is purely if you're looking to create the design rather than the smell. And what I'm going to do going forwards is have a look through some of the other common soap designs that people create and try and recreate some more things with natural colourants, because I think it's quite a fun project and it's quite fun to actually see what you can create using natural colourings rather than the oxides, micas, which both can be classed as nature identical, so they're okay, but then there's other colourants that really aren't natural at all that people sometimes use. So it's nice to see what can be created with natural colourants. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. I hope it has given you a little bit of inspiration and perhaps shown you what can actually be achieved with natural plant-based colourants and clays. If you'd like to have a look at our website, it is here. If you wish to purchase anything, you can do so using this discount code to save yourself a few pennies. I'm not sure what we've got in line for next Friday. I'm sure I'll think of something and create something by then. But in the meantime, enjoy this lovely weather. I'm debating going to the beach now. I think it could be an order, a little beach trip. We're up at about 31 degrees, so could be an order. I'll see you guys next Friday. Bye!